Good morning, members. Good morning, members and guests. Let us convene the meeting of the Board of Equalization, which is hereby called to order. Our first line of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. We would ask that Mr. Cano lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cano, I understand that you want to provide the board testimony. Please come forward on veterans issues.
Most Honorable Chairman and board members, thank you very much for allowing me to speak this morning. Seldom does your staff get the credit that they're due. And over the last few months, Mr. Gao's office has helped me identify small veterans groups that had been starting to fall through the cracks as far as notification of some monies that they have coming back to them. We've just about got it narrowed down into a laser of which veterans have monies coming, and then an additional issue has been brought to my attention by our Veterans Service Advisory Council of Santa Barbara County. I'm a member as the South Coast representative, goes into Ventura County a little bit, for veterans issues. Our newly returning veterans who are now applying for business licenses in general aren't asked if they are an honorable discharge veteran. By not asking that question, the veterans exemptions that they do hold and have made a earned personal privilege of aren't being applied to our returning veterans. Harry Hagan, our treasurer tax collector, has simplified our general business license application to include the few words I wanted. Are you a veteran of the United States military? Yes or no? Check the box. Claim for the veterans exemption is the second sheet that follows. The third sheet is the special notice for all tax repayment for these veteran vendors. If this basic form could be provided statewide in a unified manner to all of the business license issuers, that would really cover everyone who's wishing to get their business license and who are an honorable discharge veteran. There's a few other small items, but as any returning of monies or whatever, I don't think you guys had to do that too many times over the last 120 years. So the policy and the procedure we've been working on, and I want to thank Mr. Gao and his office. I'm going to meet with him directly after this address. I want you all to have a nice, safe Labor Day weekend coming up, and let's not have too heavy of a workload for you guys today. Once again, thank you very much for all of your support over all of these years, and I much appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you. Fiona, you got my back. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I don't know if we're allowed to ask questions now, but if there's anything I can do in regards to any veterans issue, I'm starting to get near the age of retirement. I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands. You guys might be seeing me once or twice up in Sacramento, and I'd like one last thing, to have the Revenue and Governance Committee of the Senate advised of the incorrect information that was put forth during this Assembly Bill 919. I haven't been contacted regarding what's going to be done there. I don't know if you want me to go and address that body or not, but I think because you sponsored AB 1919, you should make sure the accuracy is beyond reproach. And especially when they're talking about me, I want to make sure that things are extremely accurate. Other than that, I don't have a bitch or a moan, and I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. Before you leave, discussion members, Member Mall.
Mr. Gao, since he evoked your name, perhaps you can just come forward. I just have a question about forms and changing forms and adding boxes. Like, what is the procedure that we go through to change some of the forms that we have out there?
David Gao, Chief Deputy Director. Mr. Connell has provided to me this morning a copy of the County of Santa Barbara form that he's been able to get the correction to. So we could help him, I think, with the counties, maybe get the word out. Then we would need to look at ours. Oftentimes, the sales tax is whether, it doesn't necessarily need to be a veteran to determine that in the application process, but we certainly can help him get this word out.
I'm just saying in general. Like, let's say we wanted to change a box on our
it's an
sales tax
internal
form.
process that we go through. The corrections or modifications are recommended. They go through a clearance process, and it happens. So it's a fairly streamlined process.
Further discussion, members? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Connell. We always appreciate your presence and the information that you bring. Mr. Gao, thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Members, let us take a 45-minute recess to consider additional evidence on one of the cases presented before us, and we will return.
You asked and we listened. Together, we've designed a California State Board of Equalization website with you in mind. The convenient login button allows you to access many of our online services from anywhere at any time. Drop-down menus make navigation easy. You can do everything from filing a return and making a payment to finding permits and licenses. Our interactive banners highlight the latest news, programs, and services. Popular topics help you find information quickly. The How Do I and Business Center sections offer you even more helpful resources, including individual tax guides for various industries. We also want to hear from you. Tell us, how was your experience? Your feedback is important because it helps us provide you with an improved and more interactive website. So check it out at boe.ca.gov. It's designed with you in mind.
The Taxpayers' Rights Advocate of the State Board of Equalization wants you to know you have rights. As a California taxpayer, your rights are protected during the assessment and collection of taxes, including the right to courteous and prompt service and the right to be treated fairly during all dealings with Board of Equalization employees and officers of the Board. Publication 70, Understanding Your Rights as a California Taxpayer, and Publication 145, California Taxpayer Advocates, can be useful in learning about your rights. If you feel the BOE has not resolved your concerns adequately, please contact the Taxpayers' Rights Advocates Office at 1-888-324-2798 or email us. The Taxpayers' Rights Advocate of the State Board of Equalization. We're here for you.
Are you planning on traveling out of the country soon? Finally taking that dream vacation? Or is your company sending you overseas on business? When traveling, a lot of us like to bring something home. Maybe a lot of things. But there is something you should know about your foreign purchases. You may owe use tax. Hand-carried items or purchases you ship into California could be subject to use tax. Use tax is similar to the sales tax you pay when making purchases in California. Typically, use tax is owed when you buy from out-of-state or online sellers where sales tax is not charged. Or when taking a trip abroad. It's easy to pay use tax. Just report and pay it on your state income tax return. The revenue collected from use tax helps pay for California services like public safety, healthcare, and schools. So, have a great time, but don't forget to keep track of what you buy because you may owe use tax. Now you're ready for that next big adventure. To learn more, visit boe.ca.gov. Paying your use tax. Good for you, good for California.
It's easy to buy things online these days, but did you know you may need to pay tax on those items?
Really?
It's called use tax. And just like sales tax, the use tax you pay to California will help fund important services like public safety, healthcare, and schools. But how do you know if you owe use tax? When you buy things online, look to see if you were charged tax when you checked out. If you weren't, you may owe use tax. It's easy to figure out how little you may owe. For most purchases, you don't even have to save your receipts. Just use this convenient use tax table, available in your income tax instructions. Find your adjusted gross income to see how much you may owe, and enter that amount when preparing your state income taxes. It's that simple. No looking through files and no hassles. You've paid your use tax for the whole year.
That was easy.
Paying your use tax. Good for you. Good for California.
We're committed to supporting our communities, teaming up with businesses large and small, improving our roads and schools, investing in law enforcement and our environment. Together, we're funding a better quality of life. We're the California State Board of Equalization. The BOE was created in 1879 to equalize property tax assessment practices throughout California. Our responsibility has grown quite a bit since then. Today, the BOE administers more than 30 taxes and fees that provide 1/3 of all the revenue generated in our great state. And we're efficient. More than 99% of the money you contribute supports services and programs that benefit all of us in California. When you drive down our many highways, see a police officer helping someone in need, or enjoy a walk along a pristine beach, think about what makes it possible. Whether you're a business owner, making a purchase, or just filling up your gas tank, your contributions are important to our state's economic health. And the greatest part, we're doing it together. We're ready to work with you. Take advantage of our free seminars, helpful classes, instructional videos, and mobile applications. Also, use our online services. It's easy to do business with us from anywhere, at any time. Our partnership equals success. Learn more at boe.ca.gov. Together, we're supporting our communities and funding a better quality of life.
Members, let us reconvene the meeting of the Board of Equalization. We are back in practice. Members, after consideration, I've asked the appeals to consider the additional information provided to this body, as well as the Franchise Tax Board, and I believe we should at least go on record as to what their position is, and then we will entertain. So I'm going to ask that Ms. Richmond please introduce the case, then we'll go to appeals and ask them to provide us with their insight on the information, and ask all the parties to come forward if they will.
Our first item on this morning's agenda is item B, the corporate franchise and personal income tax appeals hearings. Our first hearing is B1, Robert H. Lowe and Sheryl L. Berkoff.
Please present the issues in this case and your thoughts as relative to the additional documentation.
Good morning, Chairman Horton, members of the board. The issues in this case are whether appellants have shown that Franchise Tax Board erred in its determination of the basis of real property sold by appellants and the resulting taxable gain. And the second issue is whether appellants have established reasonable cause for the abatement of the penalty for the failure to furnish information. Mr. Chairman, the Franchise Tax Board has requested permission to speak first as to their thoughts about possible postponement, with your permission.
In the essence of a potential, let me share it to the Franchise Tax Board, a potential resolution of this case, we would grant you the opportunity to share your thoughts in that regard.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Horton and members of the board. My name is Sonia Woodruff, and with me today are Ron Hofstall and Craig Scott, also from the Franchise Tax Board. I just would like to note that a substantial amount of new information and evidence has been provided to us today for the first time, and most notably, Mr. Williams' database was provided to us for the first time today. I want to point out that we've been requesting this very information for over 2 years. We asked for it in advance of the first pre-hearing conference. We asked for it again before the deposition of the expert witnesses, and we haven't received it. This is the first time it's being provided today. I'm glad that it's being provided today, and I would really like the opportunity to review it and digest the information in that. You know, and I'd also like to point out that this information may support Mr. Williams' report. It may serve to validate items in his report, and I'd like the chance to review that information and come up with a meaningful response.
Okay, in light of that the information may be determinative in the final decision between the parties, the board will grant, unless there's an objection of the members, not a postponement until the next hearing. We want to resolve this matter. I mean, this is a very fact-intensive case, lots of documents, lots of briefings and so forth, and knowing the members as I know them, they have read everything, and they have gone through this deliberatively, meticulously, and so forth. And so, given the new evidence, I haven't had an opportunity to review the new evidence either. So in the essence of fairness to all parties, we will continue this case until the next hearing. What date is that, Ms. Richmond?
November 17th through the 19th.
November 17th. Mr. Ferris, any thoughts? Only because I saw you standing up there, I figured.
I was just standing there in case you needed me.
Oh, in case the wall is falling, you can go back.
May I be heard?
Yes.
The new evidence was all materials requested by the board, and at no time were we advised of any deadline or any condition for the proceeding moving forward. And had we known that, we would have been able to address a lot of these concerns. Mr. Lowe took off from work today, and I think you understand what he does and what his schedule is, essentially shutting down a piece of an industry so that he could be here today and proceed with this hearing. And it's incredibly inconvenient and a surprise that complying with the request of the board denies my client the opportunity to get what has been going on for 4 years finished.
I appreciate your testimony. I don't believe the compliance is the issue. I think the point in time in which the compliance occurred, we're in the, and certainly appreciate the work and effort that the taxpayer has put into this, as well as everyone else, that this delay will affect and how it, causes dismay for all of us. But in the essence of fairness in trying to resolve this issue, I believe the request is reasonable. Member Harkey.
It could be that you won't need to come back.
That would be the hope.
That would probably be the hope. There's a lot of data that's submitted. Some of it I have seen before, but from Exhibit 8 on to the back is relatively new to all of us. FTB's got a new chart that they submitted that they may want to review. This has got tons of data. We've seen appraisals, we've reviewed appraisals. I bounce back and forth between appraisals to figure out who's supporting what's supporting what. We put a lot of work into this. And so there's a potential, I guess, as the chairman's saying, it could work to your favor or not. And
Could I speak for 1 second?
Sure.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for letting us come before you. I take this very seriously. I think that this new evidence, which was asked for by the board, which we went out and provided for you, I think speaks to the level at which we take this seriously. I've been paying my taxes in this state since I was 15 years old. I paid on time. I paid everything that was required of me, and I truly believe that it's a privilege, because living in California is the dream. California gave me everything. So I guess what I would ask for you is just common sense, fairness, and also some expediting if we could do it, because it's been years. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The testimony is much appreciated. We look forward to, we take the request for expediting this seriously.
Yes.
The material that is before us, although I believe it's important and to the determination of the case, I believe that the information can be reviewed expeditiously and should be. This will be the last continuous regardless. We would encourage all parties to provide whatever information well before the day of the hearing. With that, thank you so very much. We appreciate your time, and apologies to not only the Lowes as well as their representatives, to appeals, and everyone else who has prepared. Hopefully your preparation will not be in vain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to recess though, just.
So I'm thinking.
Ms. Richmond, I just thought of something. Given that the hearing next month is in Sacramento, and we do want it to be to the convenience of the taxpayer, I would defer to them as long as that's convenient for them, and in light of the desire to expedite, I believe it would be. So let's meet and confer to make sure that we are accommodating to the taxpayer.
Okay.
They can probably get up there as easy as they can get here.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Maybe a quicker trip.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, I don't know, he's got a new movie, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I checked my schedule. I have many movies that week.
Yeah, I don't have
I'm
any.
good.
That's
I'm good.
I could be here.
Well, Sheryl could really handle it too.
Yeah.
I mean, she's into the weeds.
Yeah.
You're meeting 15 and 16,
Ms. Richmond, what is our next matter?
Our next matter is item B3, Matthew G. Krane. That taxpayer has not shown up. Board proceedings did call the taxpayer, and we left a message.
Let's put it over to allow the taxpayer to come. At the same time, let's continue to reach out to them and see if we can determine whether or not they'll be able to.
Over to the end of today?
We'll continue to the end, well, till they come or the end of the day.
Okay.
Next matter, Ms. Richmond.
So our next item is B4, Philip M. Aker. Please come forward.
As the taxpayer comes forward, Mr. Applewhite, would you please introduce the issues in this case?
Mr. Chairman, members, Anthony Applewhite of the Appeals Division. There is one issue in this appeal, whether appellant has shown reasonable cause for failing to reply to the demand for tax return.
Thank you. Mr. Aker, welcome to the Board of Equalization. Sir, you will have 10 minutes to make your presentation. Please be advised that we will return and allow you 5 minutes on rebuttal at your convenience, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the board. I'm asking the board to grant my appeal for a reduction or elimination of a $2,201.50 demand penalty levied on me by the Franchise Tax Board. This penalty was for failing to file my 2010 state income tax by the date set by FTB in a demand for tax return and a subsequent deferral letter from FTB. Some facts about my case. I'm employed full-time by the City of Los Angeles and subject to state withholding. During the 2010 tax year, I had $7,096 withheld from my biweekly checks, so the FTB had that entire amount by December 2010. In April 2011, I filed for an extension to pay my 2010 California tax and paid an additional $2,100 to the FTB. When I failed to file a return, FTB issued a demand for tax return on December 27, 2011. I asked for and received a deferral to March 2nd. When I didn't file by that date, FTB issued a notice of proposed assessment, including a demand penalty of $2,712.75. I filed my 2010 return on 6/15/12, paying state income tax of $8,806. Since that amount was less than my total withholding and extension payments of $9,196, which the FTB had since December 2010 and April 15, 2011, respectively, I asked for a $390 refund. Instead of issuing a refund, FTB adjusted its demand payment to $2,201.50, which I paid. I then filed an appeal to the FTB to reduce or eliminate the demand penalty, which the FTB denied. So I'm asking the board to reduce or eliminate this penalty. I'm not questioning FTB's actions. I'm asking for mercy. I've been a California taxpayer since coming to California in 1969. I paid on time or in full with extensions for 39 years until 2008. I received a request for tax return, a deferral, and a notice of proposed assessment in 2008. I paid a late filing penalty, but FTB did not assess a demand penalty. I received a demand for tax return in 2009. After receiving a deferral, I filed on 3/8/11. That was the deferral due date. The FTB issued a notice of proposed assessment on 4/15/11, but waived the demand penalty since they'd already received my return. According to statute 19133, FTB has discretion in assessing a demand penalty. The statute says FTB may assess. In its letter granting a deferral of its demand date, FTB states, "What happens if you don't file by the deferral date?" FTB's answer is, "We estimate your taxes based on several factors, and then in addition, we may assess a delinquent filing penalty, interest, a demand to file penalty, and cost recovery fee." A regulation 19133 provides guidance on when FTB can assess a demand penalty. It says that failure to respond to a request or demand during 4 preceding taxable years. But that information isn't provided in any of the material that is sent with the demand for a tax return, the deferral, or an assessment. I'm back on track in filing my California tax. I filed for 2011, 12, and 13, and I'm finishing my 2014 return currently. As I said, I'm pleased with the service of FTB. I think that, and your staff in this whole matter. So once again, I'd like to thank you for your consideration and ask for your mercy. Thank you.
Thank you. Members will now go to the department. Department has 10 minutes to make their presentation. We'd ask that they commence at their convenience. We'd also ask that you address the issue of the demand penalty as it relates to the statute. Please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Joel Smith. Seated with me is Fred Campbell Craven, and together we represent Respondent Franchise Tax Board. When Respondent did not receive a timely 2010 tax return from appellant, Respondent issued a demand for tax return based on income information that indicated appellant had a filing requirement. The demand clearly stated that a failure to respond would result in the imposition of a demand penalty equal to 25% of appellant's total tax. In response, appellant requested a deferral to file his return, which Respondent granted. After Respondent failed to receive appellant's tax return by the deferral due date, Respondent issued a notice of proposed assessment. Thereafter, Respondent received and accepted appellant's tax return, resulting in an adjustment to the demand penalty and abatement of the delinquent filing penalty. The imposition of the demand penalty is the only issue on appeal today. In accordance with the law, Respondent imposed the demand penalty because appellant failed to timely respond to the 2010 demand and a request for tax return for the 2008 tax year, as appellant mentioned. A demand penalty was not imposed in 2008 because of Regulation 19133, which appellant mentioned. There was not a prior, within the 4 previous years to 2008, there was not an NPA or a demand issued, so the demand penalty could not be imposed for 2008. Respondent acknowledges that appellant timely paid his 2010 tax liability. However, as your board has recognized in past decisions, the legislature designed the demand penalty as the enforcement mechanism for demands which are used to encourage taxpayers to file returns. Unfortunately, for purposes of the demand penalty, the law does not consider when tax payments are made. Respondent's imposition of the demand penalty is presumed proper unless appellant is able to show that his failure to timely reply was due to reasonable cause, not willful neglect. Appellant must show that a prudent business person would have acted similarly under the circumstances. And finally, appellant must provide competent and credible evidence to support his contentions. Your board has consistently held that a belief that no tax is due is not reasonable cause to abate the demand penalty. The demand and the deferral letter clearly stated and notified appellant that failure to file a return would result in the demand penalty. Therefore, appellant has not established reasonable cause to abate the demand penalty. On the facts and evidence before your board, respondent respectfully requests you sustain his position. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
On rebuttal, please.
Yes, I think the key issue in the state's case is the may versus shall. Looking both at the statute and at the regulation, it says that a demand penalty may be assessed, which indicates discretion on the state's part. So that would be actually my rebuttal, I guess.
Discussion member Harkey.
Mr. Aker, you had some late tax returns before you got demand letters for, I guess, 2008 or 9, and you corrected that, and that was all done. Knowing this, why didn't you respond timely to the 2010 demand letter? What's your story?
I was married for a number of years. In 2006, I was involved in a divorce settlement, amicable but rather lengthy. I reestablished a relationship with my girlfriend of, well, the girl that I met when I was 15 and she was 12, and we embarked on a lot of activities, travel. She lives in Oakland, I live in Los Angeles. I was back and forth, and I would have to say that for that period of time, I was not paying attention to details the way I used to pay attention to them. And since now that the relationship is a lot more stable, I'm back onto filing my taxes in a timely fashion. That's...
We're in love. My apologies, Ms. Harkey.
I think that's...
Well, at least we got the story.
That's pretty close, and we were down for her birthday in Carmel over on Sunday, and I flew down from the Bay Area last night. So the beat goes on, but I am doing a lot better job on filing my taxes.
Good that you have a little downtime.
That's it.
Further discussion, members? Hearing none, Member Harkey moves to
I see three heads shaking.
Consideration, second by Member Ma. Without objection, such be the order.
See what women will do.
Thank you so very much for appearing today. That has been a relief in a number of ways. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Let me share as well. I'm not overly excited. The case is closed. About the demand penalty or having some way legally to be able to address that in the future. Not necessarily relative to this case, but just want to put that out there. Ms. Richmond, what is the next matter?
Our next matter is item G, tax program non-appearance matters consent. Item G1, legal appeals matters. Sub-item 2 was previously pulled. These items may be taken in one vote.
Members, noting item 2 has been pulled, is there a motion on these items to adopt staff recommendation on items 1A, 1B, 1C through 8, excluding item 2? Such should be the motion by Member Harkey, second by Member Stovall. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond?
Our next item is G2, franchise and income tax matters. These matters may be taken in one vote.
Approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Member Harkey moves to adopt staff recommendations, second by Member Stoward on items 1 through 24, excluding none of the items. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond?
Our next matter is item G4, sales and use taxes matters. These items may be taken in one vote.
Approve staff
Uh,
recommendation.
Any requests to pull any items? None. Member Harkey moves to adopt staff recommendation on item G4, 1 through 11, without objection.
Second.
Second by Member Stowar. Without objection, members, such will be the order.
Our next item is item G5, sales and use taxes matters, credits, cancellations, and refunds.
Members who would like to non-participation pull any items? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Member Harkey to adopt staff recommendation on G5, items 1 through 14. Second by Member Stowar. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond?
Our next matter is item G7, special taxes matters, credits, cancellations, and refunds. Sub-items 2 through 13 are constitutional functions. Therefore, the Deputy Controller may not participate in these matters under Government Code Section 7.9.
Noting non-participation by the Deputy Controller pursuant to Government Code Section 7.9. Is there a motion, members?
So
Move
moved.
to adopt staff recommendation by Member Harkey, items 1 through 13, second by Member Ma. Without objection, members, such will be the order.
Our next matter is item H, tax program non-appearance matters adjudicatory. Item H1, legal appeals matters. Sub-item 3 has been previously pulled. And these may be taken up separately or all together.
Members, any objection to taking the matters up all together? Item H1, 2, excluding 3, 4, and 5. Would you like to bifurcate any of these items? Member Harkey.
We pulled the one. I am concerned with 1 and 2. Item 1 and 2, we pulled 3. I'm concerned with item 1 and 2. With regard to, they're all first-time audit, and so maybe we should hear them.
Okay, members, let's take up item number 5. Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation? No redetermination and penalty remains. Moved by Member.
Item 5.
Item 5.
I move to abate negligence penalty
Member
or
Har-
approve staff recommendation.
Member Harkey moves to abate negligence penalty and adopt the balance of staff recommendation. Did I hear a second by Mr. Runner?
Yeah, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Runner. Objections? Hearing none, such will be the order. Members, we are now back on item H1, H2. Let's take them up separately. First, item H1. We'll open it up for discussion. Member Harkey.
Let me find it. All of these, item 1, this is a first-time audit case, and I really believe that the penalty should be removed on this. I think we're kind of trying to drift towards that, and so I would make a motion that we remove the penalty.
Same motion on item 2, Member Harkey?
On item 2, and the negligence, item 2, 1 and 2. both
Members will
motions.
rescind discussion of item 1, and we're now discussing item number 1 and 2, given the commonality of the issue, removal of the negligence penalty.
I'll second.
Moved by Member Harkey
have a
to
question.
remove the negligence penalty, second by Member Runner. Discussion, Member Runner.
Yeah, just to let's see, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, we had a memo that was floated in regards to negligent penalties and first-time audits. And my question is, where are we with that? Because I think I agree with the process here, or the specific cases here. My concern is that we have an overall policy in place so that we can address these in a more holistic manner, rather than on their individual basis.
Members, let me restate that if I may, with your permission, Member Runner. Member Runner is inquiring about the negligence penalty in general in the policy of the board, not necessarily a memo that is not up for discussion here in the board. I think you get the same results. Chief Counsel.
Right. There is I think it would be okay to talk about a pending draft that may be circulated, not asking for any decision from the board.
I think it's a proper, yeah.
I anticipate that sometime next week.
Secondly, I agree, given that there isn't discussion that leads to a decision or leads to a direction from the board.
Correct.
Right.
I anticipate sometime next week there will be information distributed to the members.
Yeah, I just think it's a healthier process for us, for us to have a template that we can put these cases against. And so I'm anxious to be able to get that done so that we can indeed deal with those on a holistic basis as opposed to these individual basis.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. The motion on the floor is to adopt staff recommendation with the removal of the penalty. Only because I object to the removal of the penalty, members, with your permission, I'd like to change the motion to bifurcate the case, bifurcate the motion. Let's take up the penalty, removal of the penalty. Motion by Member Harkey, second by Member on both.
Both of them.
By Member Runner. Ms. Richmond, please call the roll.
Mr. Harton?
No.
Ms. Harkey?
Aye.
Mr. Runner?
Aye.
Ms. Mom?
Aye.
Ms. Dowers?
No.
Now, members, to the substance of the issue, the adopt staff recommendation there is moved by Member Harkey, second by Member Runner. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond, our next.
I think item 4 is still pending.
Correct.
4, okay, yeah. Ms. Richmond, our next.
Let's see what item.
We still have sub-item 4.
I know.
Let's see what we
Sub-item.
got here.
You want me to do it? Members, we are now on sub-item 4. Is there a motion, Member Harkey?
I have a note here that item 4, there was an error found in the way the testing was performed. So I think we probably need to pull this and look at it again.
Member Harkey,
That's what it indicates to me.
request this matter be pulled. So be it. Unless there's objection, hearing none, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond, our next case, please.
Our next item is item H2, franchise and income tax matters. And sub-item 1 has been pulled.
So we just
Mr. Eppolite, would you please introduce the issues in this case?
The adoption of the Section 40 decision for ConAgra is before the board.
Okay. Members?
Move to adopt the summary decision.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Stowell to adopt the summary decision, second by Member Harkey. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Thank you.
Our next matter is item H5, sales and use tax matters, credits, cancellations, and refunds. There's only one sub-item.
Move staff recommendation.
Member Runner moves staff recommendation, second by Member Harkey. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Okay, such will be the order. H5. The motion is to adopt staff recommendation, approval of the refund. Motion by Member Runner, second by Member Harkey. Discussion, members. Well, we've already, okay, we're good.
Our next matter is item I, tax program non-appearance matters. I2, offering compromise recommendations.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I2, offering compromise recommendations.
Okay. Members, there a motion to recommend authorize staff to adopt all offers?
So moved.
Moved by Member Harkey, second by
Second.
Member Maul. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond, our next matter.
Our next matter is a chief counsel matter, item J, rulemaking. J1, petition to amend sales and use tax regulation 1525.4, manufacturing and research and development equipment. And we do have someone that wishes to make a public comment.
Thank you. I would ask Teresa Tumley to please come forward. Welcome to the board. We thank you and appreciate your time for traveling to Southern California. Mr. Tucker, would you please introduce the issues in this case?
Yes, a petition to amend Regulation 1525.4 was submitted by the California Taxpayers Association. The petition offers additional means to substantiate useful life of property subject to the partial exemption. Although staff has concerns about the deemed provision of Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 6377.1, we understand the perceived ambiguities in the section's wording, and we realize that reasonable minds can differ on its interpretation. We do not regard this proposal as having a revenue impact, since, subject to the approval by the Office of Administrative Law, it would be regarded as consistent with the implementing statute. Furthermore, for the first year, the exemption usage was anticipated to be approximately $15 billion. However, based upon returns to date, we have seen approximately $3 billion of usage. Today, the board can choose to, 1, deny the petition, 2, grant the petition in part or in whole and commence with the official rulemaking, 3, direct staff to start the interested parties process, or 4, take whatever action the board deems appropriate. If the board agrees, in light of the entire statutory scheme, the legislature intended to make the partial exemption available in all circumstances where a qualified person can establish that otherwise qualified tangible personal property has a useful life of 1 year or more, subject to the approval by the Office of Administrative Law. This proposed amendment will address the issues raised by Caltax and effectuate such a legislative intent. In the event the petition is granted, staff would prepare and publish a notice for the November board hearing. If the amendments are adopted at that public hearing, then staff would anticipate filing with the Office of Administrative Law before the end of the year, and the amendments would be effective April 1st, 2016. Thank you.
Members, let us hear from the Fiscal Policy Director of the California Taxpayers Association, Ms. Teresa Tumley.
Mr. Chair and members, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to come here before you, and also thank you for allowing me the opportunity to sit behind Rob Lowe and kind of stare at the back of his head. Still a little bit giddy about that. On a more serious...
Love is in the air.
Not sure about love, but definitely admiration.
His wife was right there.
Yes, that's why I didn't touch him.
Okay, members.
But on a serious note, thank you for your continued leadership on this very important issue. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank your staff as well as board staff for all of their work and dedication on this issue. It's been 2 years in the making, and California is just starting to implement this process and let other states know that California is once again trying to make ourselves more competitive with other states. We are here today to ask you to approve clarifying language and add that language to Regulation 1525.4. As your staff have indicated, there is ambiguity in the statute and in the language itself, and this language and its ambiguity has prohibited some taxpayers to qualify for the exemption and therefore generate the economic activity that was intended by the legislature. This generated economic activity was intended by the legislature as a result of the manufacturing that has left California. We're here to ask you to help California come back and retrieve those manufacturing jobs that have been lost. Specifically, we're asking that the language be added to allow California taxpayers to better verify and to have the board substantiate that the useful life language can be substantiated through either a warranty that lasts more than 1 year, a maintenance contract that lasts more than 1 year, or industry replacement standards that last for more than 1 year. And we ask that you approve option number 2, which is to initiate the regulatory rulemaking process through public notice. Thank you for your time.
Quick question. What are your thoughts about the argument that this should be done through budget trader language or statute, and that the timing is, given that this won't go into effect until April, the timing is the same, and possibly running dual parallel tracks in order to make sure that desires are ultimately reached.
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chair. The statute itself asks the Board of Equalization to take a look at utilization as well as to compare the utilization to the amount that was estimated. And in the event that that utilization is lower than what is estimated, that the board make recommendations and pursue changes in order to garner the amount that was initially intended and the economic activity that was intended. We have discussed this with the Department of Finance, and as a matter of fact, they have been asking us why utilization is so low. They've relied on us to provide the industry's perspective as to why this is not being utilized. Their discussion with us indicated that since we came in a little bit late in the May revise, they would like to take a look at it in the January budget process. But as you've indicated and as you all know, that would delay this process for industry. If we were to get legislation, it's likely that it may not be signed until 2 months later. And as this is a time-sensitive issue, since we don't have a lot of time to try to get this fixed, we'd like to ask the board to expedite this and get this clarification fixed as quickly as possible.
Discussion, Member Harkey.
This doesn't fix everything for you, is what you're saying, in essence, correct?
This is just to fix a small ambiguity. One of the issues, has to do with useful life and how to qualify, but absolutely, I think there are other ways that this exemption can be improved to maximize utilization. As your staff indicated, we are way, way underutilizing this because of some of the barriers, but this will help move us towards, in the right direction and start with clarifying language.
Right, and I was involved early on in determining that it probably had to be done through the legislature in order to, because the statute had mirrored the regulation, or the regulation mirrored the statute. And we went through a long discussion about this with many of your members. And so I know there's some other items that need to be reconciled here, and it may be a longer process. So I would encourage the board to grant this petition, and then we can move it just that step forward, a little bit forward.
We'll accept that as a grant of petition and hold to commence the official rulemaking process and to amend the regulation. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a
Further
comment.
discussion, Member Stowa.
Thank you. Caltex, thank you for looking into this issue. I wanted to say you guys have been really dedicated trying to find a resolution to the problem. Myself and Ms. Shee definitely support having businesses benefit from this exemption, and we acknowledge that it is underutilized. Not sure if it's because of a problem within the statute with useful life, or if it's just because the exemption amount is just not enough to encourage them to accelerate their investments in California. With that being said, I am under the impression that the requirement needs to be fixed in the statute first, as opposed to the regulation. And for that, I will not be voting yes to accept the petition.
Okay. Thank you. Further discussion, members? I think it should be fixed through statute as well. However, what the hey, let's see if we can get it done. That's sort of my view. Even if we could expand it to do all the other things. The only thing stands in front of us is the Office of Administrative Law, and they'll always be there. So that's my thought. There's a motion on the floor.
Real quick.
Objection noted. Member Runner.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the backstop there, if we go beyond what we need to do, is the Office of Administrative Law. So I think there's a backstop there if we go beyond what we need to or should. But I think the other side weighs more heavily, I think, for us, and that is how can we expedite this process in order to grow business in the state of California. That being said, I have a question to Caltax. There are some other items that I think you're wanting to address.
Not in this petition.
Well, right, I understand that, but let me ask you this. Because one of the other issues that I would have a question about is whether or not there are some things, for instance, if you would think it would be helpful if we did interested parties or other kind of discussions in those other items in preparation then for what would be taking place next year. I would just let Caltax decide if there's an involvement that we should have outside of this petition to try to deal with some of those other issues. I think we ought to take that into consideration at some time too.
Yes, thank you, and we will be coming back to you after we take a look at the remaining items and talk to all of the board members about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Harkey.
We would be happy to review this under Business Tax Committee and get the process rolling and see if we can move it along.
Thank you.
Members, I might recommend as well is that whenever you have a situation where only 200 million or 35%, somewhere around there, of the tax credit is being used, the communication to the legislature is that the other 65% is unused and we can use it for something else. And so I would certainly encourage that we begin the process now through the business taxes as it relates to the rulemaking, but also through the legislative committee as it relates to legislation, budgetary changes, to begin to have that discussion about all the other items, at least for a minimum, to be able to share with the legislature, give the legislature the benefit of that deliberation. Without that, the first of the year, what this is $400 million for whatever they want to use it for. So there's a motion on the floor. Discussion by Member Ma.
I just want to add that the manufacturing tax credit has been discussed a lot with many folks because of the confusion, and that's what we do sometimes in the legislature. You know, we only have 9 months, we pass it, we're not really very specific, and we leave it to the agencies to promulgate the rules and the regulations. So I agree with the chairman that I'd like to see us try to tackle this, and if not, then, you know, we can run legislation, and as the chair, I'm more than happy to work with you to accomplish that.
Thank you.
Ms. Richmond, please call the roll.
Mr. Horton?
Aye.
Ms. Harkey?
Aye.
Mr. Runner?
Aye.
Ms. Ma? Ms. Dowers?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Ms. Richmond, our next matter.
Our next matter is the administrative session. We have item N, consent agenda. Item N1, we have retirement resolutions for Belinda Baltazar, Irvin Cook, Suzanne Kukovich, Felicia P. Abe, Sheryl Cherry Larson, and Virginia Torres. The members of the board wish to extend their sincere and grateful appreciation to the retirees for their dedicated service to the State Board of Equalization and to the State of California. Their congratulations on their well-earned retirement and best wishes to them and their families for continued success, happiness, and good health in the years to come.
Thank you. Members N1 and N2 are on consent items, but I always want to take the opportunity to thank all of our retirees for their services. We have here 176 years of experience that is retiring, and we certainly want to provide opportunity to replace that at some point. But I believe it's irreplaceable, and I just want to thank all of you for your services and wish you a wonderful, wonderful retirement. Member Harkey.
I just need to do a little shout out. We have a person in Irvine, Jenny Torres, Irvine cashier, who is amongst the retirees, and wish to congratulate her and thank her for her service. We also had Felissa Faye Ibe. She started her career in Santa Ana and worked with my Irvine folks, and she moved to New York City to be closer to her family. I have here and want to thank her very much for her service.
Ms. Richmond.
So we need a motion on items N1 and N2.
Member Runner moves to adopt consent agenda, second by Member Ma. Without objection, members, such will be the order.
Our next matter is item P.
Well, strike that. Rescind the motion and the action of the board. Members, Ms. Richmond, please describe item N2.
Item N2 is proposed revision to Compliance Policy and Procedures Manual, Chapter 9, miscellaneous.
Member Runner moves to adopt to the consent agenda, second by Member Ma. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond, our next matter.
Our next matter is item P, other administrative matters. Item P1, Executive Director's Report. Item P11, we have approval of the 2016 Board Workload Plan.
Ms. Bridges, welcome to the Board of Equalization.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Board Proceedings Division has prepared a calendar of board meeting dates for 2016. The proposed calendar meets the requirement for monthly board meetings and the requirement for the board to meet at least quarterly in Sacramento. I recommend approval.
Is there a motion, members? So moved. Moved by Member Runner to adopt work plan, second by Member Ma. Members, let me thank Member Ma for bringing it, for providing additional time to deliberate issues during our most critical time in the summer. Bringing that recommendation up, much appreciated. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Thank you. Ms. Richmond?
Our next matter is item P12, cross-project update and actions.
Members, as you know, over the past month, we have been working closely with Caltech on completing the integrated master schedule. Caltech has set September 15th as the go, no-go date for the October 15th final proposals due date. Based on our most recent meetings and feedback from Caltech, we are confident that we will be able to move forward final proposals on October 15th. We are meeting with Caltech again on September 1st to go over the latest version of the IMS and are optimistic on the outcome. During this time, the CROSS team continues to make more progress on our pre-implementation activities and developing our change management roadmap. With recent changes in to supplement the project's leadership team, with Mr. Steen, Mr. McGuire, and Ms. Fleming, they're working together to update and clarify the leadership roles and responsibilities in anticipation of implementation next year. And that concludes my update.
Thank you very much. Discussion, members? Hearing none, the board will receive and file. Ms. Richmond?
Our next matter is item P5, Administration Deputy Director's Report. Item P51, 2016-17 budget change proposals.
Good morning, Chairman Horton and members. I'm Edna Murphy, the Deputy Director of Administration. Before you today, I have 5 budget change proposals that will be submitted for inclusion in the Governor's proposed 2016-17 budget. The first item is requesting $2.3 million for conversions of 19.5 limited term positions to permanent and 4.4 position equivalent in temporary help to continuous processing mandated workload associated with ABX 129 fire prevention fee. The total program revenues are anticipated to be approximately $104 million annually. Next, we are requesting $5.7 million for conversion of 22 limited term positions to permanent and 12 additional 2-year limited term positions to address the increase in combined workload in the Appeals Division Business Tax Section and Settlement Program. The 22 positions were originally approved as the Southern California Appeals and Settlement Unit pilot. The pilot position has successfully accelerated the resolution of an additional 3,200 cases, valued at $477.8 million since the inception in 2010. They have been critical in minimizing the gap between incoming and completed caseloads. Next, we're requesting $296,000 in federal funds for the conversion of 2 limited term positions to permanent to participate in the Joint Operations Centers ensuring fuel tax compliance. Participation in this project has allowed the BOE to leverage state and federal resources to identify evasion, non-reporting, and underreporting. Currently, 9 states participate in the JOC, in which sophisticated analytical tools are applied to the data set to identify anomalies, inconsistencies, and omissions in the data that generate leads for the JOC audit teams to follow up in the field. The BOE anticipate an estimated $1 million in revenue from the JOC audit leads and investigation. Next, we are requesting $1.4 million in fiscal year 16-17 and $1.3 million in 17-18 and ongoing for 24 positions to administer security guard services at the BOE headquarters and the San Jose District Office. The staffing is a mix of permanent staff as well as permanent intermittent staff and a manager to allow for flexible scheduling. A contract will still be needed to be executed with the unarmed security guard company to backfill vacancies and or for emergency coverage in the event of employees calling in sick or unplanned time away from work. And then lastly, we're requesting $500,000 for BOE to reimburse the Department of General Services for any reasonable costs and or expenses to enter into a lease or other agreement with a private party to facilitate the relocation of BOE's headquarters and annex facilities into a consolidated location. This funding would allow DGS to conduct a site search, development, and feasibility analysis in fiscal year 16-17 for the relocation of BOE's headquarters. While BOE recognized that the 450 N Street building was ranked number 16 out of 29 in the DGS State Facility Long Range Planning Study, due to potential legislative mandates, the BOE is still projected to grow between 1% to 3% per year. Due to growth, if we are not consolidated, this will only lead to development of additional costly leases and additional annex facilities, and the continued fragmentation of an already decentralized BOE headquarter operation. Currently, the BOE, in collaboration with DGS, is preparing a time and motion study relative to return processing in the BOE headquarters facility. This study will address the inefficiencies in the return processing that are currently experienced in a high-rise office building, as well as our inability of the 450 N Street facility to meet our growth needs as it relates to staff, not to mention the needs for expanding our business infrastructure and technology. We believe we can make a case that it will be a savings to the state to consolidate the BOE to a new location so that DGS may repair the building unoccupied, which would save time and money, and then DGS can consolidate other state agencies and departments currently in the state office building with more significant deficiencies into the 450 N Street. This will then allow DGS the opportunity to address the balance of their portfolio of state office buildings in the greater Sacramento area that require more significant improvement due to infrastructure deficiencies. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the budget change proposals.
Member Ma.
Thank you very much. I don't have a problem with A, B, C, and D, but I do have a problem with E. The BOE has very competent building folks that have done a great job for us. I know in our transition, in our offices, they have been very, very attentive and highly professional and qualified. DGS, on the other hand, we have been trying to work with DGS on a number of different projects, including my Santa Rosa break room, which has been requesting a break room for necessary, like lunch, maternity purposes, and over the past 18 months, their estimates have gone up 3 times significantly without any sort of breakdown in terms of why the costs have escalated almost double. So I don't have the confidence in DGS to do this type of preliminary review. I would really like us to reconsider and have our BOE staff do a lot more of the preliminary and then work with DGS at the end. Their costs seem to be escalating. I still don't have a breakdown of all the costs that we pay to DGS for all the projects they're doing for us. So at this moment, I am not going to be voting for this budget change proposal to give DGS any more money.
There may be a response to that.
I just wanted to let Ms. Ma know that we have reached out to DGS to see what delegated authority we could have to kind of pursue some of the preliminary work. And so we're still talking to them, and I know you would like for us to meet with them as well, and we're making that as well.
Sorry.
My apologies.
And I know they have a new director right now, and I haven't had a chance to sit down with him, but over the past 7 months, I have not been satisfied with the level of service that they have provided or the lack of transparency in terms of the cost. And so at this moment, I am not voting for that budget change proposal.
Maybe we can share with the members and we can proceed to seek an official delegation of some of these duties. I think all of the members have shared the similar experience. I mean, my Southern California location, I drove around myself to find it, and we finally found it and looked at it and kind of worked through the process. And I mean, there's no necessarily a slight against DGS. Maybe there's capacity issues, staffing issues, or whatever, but and at the same time, it's an expression of confidence in our staff and their ability to get this job done, which may hold true for many of the other departments. So what's the process of us getting that authority?
Well, we reached out to them initially to see if we could have delegation, and they provided that wasn't kind of an opportunity. So we want to sit down and have a meeting with them to try to discuss what opportunities we could have on our part to do some of the preliminary work and be able to do
Now,
that.
having to go to them for permission to do that, maybe there's a discussion with the governor's office about the efficiency and the win-win of allowing the agencies who have a more unique and understanding of their needs to be able to facilitate that. In many cases, it's going to be a cost savings to the state overall. Member Harkey.
Well, I have something on a totally different
Yeah, no,
topic, but.
roll.
Oh, okay, roll, wants me to go. Okay, I'm going to have to abstain on the first one, which is the permanent establishment of fire prevention fee, limited term positions. I really am not comfortable voting for permanent positions when there's ongoing litigation, which may eliminate the fee. So I'm going to abstain on that one.
Noted. Further discussion?
Let me ask, actually on both of those. Going back to the issue, the facility issue, I guess I'd like to know exactly and have it clarified for me. And maybe you come back with rather than a board meeting, maybe a memo back to us on exactly detailing what is within our realm of authority in this issue and what is not, so that we can get a better idea of what kind of delegation of authority we would actually need to be seeking. That would help us, help me out at least.
And I'll also reach out to Department of Finance as well, because again, the funding is then approved so that DGS could do this, but maybe we need to have the discussion on whether or not if we could do it more efficiently and in a better time constraint, maybe we should look to see if we can have that delegation. Because most of the information that we get is in our communication directly with DGS, and so it may be helpful to find out whether or not that funding can be given directly to us to do those same activities.
And then let me follow up on the other issue that came up, and that is the issue of permanent versus temporary positions. Let's see, these have been temporary positions for how many years now?
So we're going on our 5th year.
Okay. So how long can we keep somebody in a temporary position?
Well, normally you can only keep someone in a limited term position for 2 years, and so
Right.
that becomes some of the recruitment processes. The last 2 times we've gone back, they've only allowed us to do the position limited term. So this time we're going back for the permanency so that we don't have to, keep asking for the positions over and over again. The normal process, if something was to happen, if there was litigation to determine that this was not an appropriate program and they were going to get rid of it, then we would be seeking how to relocate those staff to other positions if they were permanent.
The other issue is I always get confused when we have limited term positions that then become protected employees. Even though the positions are limited, the employees then end up being permanent, if you will, right?
Yes, because you have the ability for someone to accept a limited term position, but they have permanent state status.
Right.
So if they move into a limited term position that's for 2 years, but it was for a promotion just to get the experience or the opportunity, they still have permanent status back to the previous position that they were in.
So what happens if somebody was, I don't know if there's anybody like this, but somebody came into one of those limited term positions in the very beginning, and so they've been there for 5 years in a limited term position. And let's say, what happens to them if indeed then the issue of litigation moves forward, not litigation moves forward, but the state ends up finding that they could not move forward as they thought on the fire fee. What happens to those individuals, not positions, those individuals?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because normally when you move into a limited term position, if it's your first time, then when the 2-year limited term expires, you're supposed to go back to wherever you came from, so your previous position.
What if they're new?
So if they were new, they would have no return rights to anything. So most people within those 2 years are trying to seek permanent positions. And so that's usually where our turnover come in, because within those 2 years, they're trying to move into a permanent position. But if they got to the end of their 2-year limited term and they were not permanent employees, they would get a notice within 30 days that their limited term was expiring. And then they would have to seek employment somewhere else.
So is that kind of what's happened then with our folks so they've been in these limited term positions dealing with fire fee. They get as they come up to the end of their 2 years, then they find themselves applying then for a permanent position somewhere else in the BOE?
Yes. Or
And then-
outside, but.
Or
yes.
outside,
Mhm.
somewhere within state, probably somewhere within state.
Within state government.
State government. And then we end up with a vacancy that then we fill then with another
Another.
temporary position. And so that's the cycle that we end up going through.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
On the issue with the headquarters and then the potential delegation of duties, in that Member Ma has a more pressing issue, her engagement with the director may actually resolve this. So, in the interest of synergy, I recommend that we kind of work through her in order to accomplish that. The limited term position, I mean, my view is more in lines with the employees, such an uncertainty there, to provide them some certainty. How many positions are we talking about?
This is 19.5 limited term.
Yeah, okay. Member Ma.
I'm sorry, I don't know if this was asked before, but for the CAL FIRE fee, we just collect the fee, right?
Yes.
And we don't have any sort of appeal authority, or if constituents have an issue, like a house burns down and they get this statement and they really would like relief, we don't have any sort of authority over anything, right?
No,
Is
I
that my
think all
understanding?
of that goes to, as far as the listing comes from CAL FIRE, and they administer all of the appeals and the petitions and stuff like that. So we administer and the collection of the fee, but they actually own the program,
We
the
bill and
fire fee
collect.
program.
We just bill.
Okay, so
CAL FIRE.
we hire them, and then we bill CAL FIRE, and they reimburse us for the cost?
They,
For-
we get reimbursed for our costs of collection.
Okay, so then it went away.
Okay. Further discussion, members? Hearing none, members, we will take up item B and item C, moved by member, by B, C, and D. Moved by member Harkey, well, strike that. What am I doing? We need a consensus here and a communication here. Yeah.
So it's B, C, and D that have
I'm gonna,
We can do-
I'm gonna take the matters up just as a means in which to give direction, or unless the chief counsel can give us some insight. I think we ought to proceed with all of these and relative to the limited term. In the interest of the employees, we ought to be able to see if we can provide them with some security. The pending lawsuit, the board and the legislature and judicial bodies try to avoid making decisions pursuant to those, to pending lawsuits because of the nature in general, but would encourage staff to have that discussion with the Department of Finance and have that, and express Member Harkey's concerns of the Department of Finance as well as the Department of Fire to even provide greater security if 5 years down the road, for some reason, it's deemed to be unconstitutional, that we include some protection for our employees in that regard. And acknowledge the abstention by Member Harkey relative to the concerns shared by all of the members, and would ask that that be communicated to DGS as well as Department of Finances, and we will receive and file your report and encourage you to proceed with the budget proposals, given those caveats.
Sounds good.
Without objection from the members, we will receive and file. Thank you, Randy.
Sorry. Gave you a challenge. Sorry.
Randy, we will take a break and you can talk to me offline. I see the puzzling face.
give any direction in regards to moving forward with BCPs?
Yeah, we don't
Oh, we just received and filed, we didn't get direction.
We don't have to approve.
Well,
She needs-
let me say this. My understanding is that staff has been directed to move forward with the BCPs. There are certain concerns the board has expressed to staff and requested that staff share those concerns and take the appropriate action to mitigate those concerns, and particularly with the delegation of duties as it relates to the board's oversight in building and construction and DGS, as well as the permanency of the funding source if these positions are to go permanent, and that there is some subsequent action by the court that we in turn continue to protect our employees and make sure that in time we find a way to allow them to articulate back into the agency, and we share our concerns with the Department of Fire as well as the Department of Finance, who will be responsible for paying for those employees.
And that's not a motion.
It's not a motion, it's
so
just,
moved.
it's just
Second.
direction that I believe to be the consensus of the board. Without objection, that will be the order. Does that help? You want a motion?
Do you want a motion? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, we'll come back if we have to, members. Ms. Richmond?
That concludes our administrative session. Next are those items that were submitted for decision. Sub-item B3, Matthew G. Krane, still has not shown up, and we have made another phone call and left a message.
1 second. Members, you've called them
Yes, again.
and have not been able to get in contact with them?
Correct.
Any communications prior to the hearing as to their intent to show up? They've been responsive thus
Just a
far?
response to the hearing notice. They responded to the hearing notice.
And that was how long
And
ago?
That was at least 15, 20 days ago.
And I'm
was-
presuming their responsive was in the affirmative?
Yes.
Okay, we will now go to closed session. Is that up today?
Are we gonna take a vote on it?
So the
And
mem-
come back and take the votes, yeah.
The members
Why
will
don't we
now
take
go
Aker
into
since he's
closed
sitting
session to discuss settlements and personnel matters.
Ms. Richmond?
The board members met in closed session and discussed settlements and personnel matters.
Members, in an abundance of conscience, we're going to return to the BCT matters in order to provide clarity to staff. We'll take those matters up. Ms. Richmond, that is P.
Item P5-1.
BC fees?
Yes.
Yes.
Members, we will take up item E, note no, note a no vote from Member Ma, motion by Member Runner.
I'll stay off of it.
No vote by Member Runner, motion by Member Harkey, second
Second.
by Member Stowar. With noting the position of the members, such will be the case. We'll now go, members, to item number 1A, permanent establishment, noting abstention by Member Harkey. Is there a motion? Moved by Member Stowar, second by Member Runner. Mr. Runner standing off, second by Member Ma. Member Ma, second, noting the votes of the members. Such will be the order with the affirmative and the negative votes. Now, members, we're on B, C, and D. Is there a motion to move forward with the budget proposals?
Move staff recommendation.
Member Runner moves staff recommendation, second by Member Ma. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Now, members, we are will return to the unresolved matters. Ms. Richmond?
Our first matter is item B3, Matthew G. Krane. Still has not shown up or responded to phone calls.
Is there a desire to take this matter up, members? Member Harkey.
I'll move to sustain the FTB.
Member Harkey moves to sustain the FTB, second
Second.
by Member Stowar. Without objection, members, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond?
Our next matter is B4, Philip M. Aker.
I'll move to grant the refund, grant the appeal.
Member Harkey moves to grant the appeal, second by Member Runner.
Objection, has not
Objection
established
noted.
reasonable cause.
My apologies, objection noted. Member Stowar?
Objecting on the basis that he has not established reasonable cause for not filing on demand.
I concur. As much as I'd love to be able to grant it based on love. Ms. Richmond, please call the roll.
Mr. Horton?
No.
Ms. Harkey?
Aye.
Mr. Runner?
Aye.
Ms. Ma? No. Motion fails.
Is there a motion, members, to
Move to sustain the franchise tax board.
Member Stowar moves to sustain the franchise tax board, second by Member Harkey. Objection, members. Without objection, such will be the order. Ms. Richmond?
That concludes our business for today.
Members, let us recess the meeting of the Board of Equalization until tomorrow at 9:30, back at this same location. Thank you very much for your participation.